We're live, pal.
Yay, we're here. Happy Friday, everybody. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing good. I want to just address the elephant in the room. I am at a much different camera angle. Basically, long story short, on what I use as my editing computer, the StreamYard was just not working for me.
Okay.
And so, and on two streams, because I do this show with my good friend Mike Thomas, the Novice Cinephile, called The Chatter After Daily, where we talk about movie news, and I do it Tuesdays and Thursdays. And the Thursday show, the StreamYard was just not, it just was going into business for itself. So I had to go back to my old setup. This is like 2016-17 version Ryan Cam here. But I'm making it work like I always do.
Looks good. Is that on his channel or your channel?
That's on his channel, The Chatter After. And I have a ton of fun doing it. Last night we talked about John Wick Chapter 4 trailer, the Tetris trailer. Hey, Jacob, how's it going?
Oh, yeah, that was a pretty good trailer out of the Tetris trailer. I was intrigued.
Yeah, I love the video game Tetris. It's a personal favorite of mine. So when I heard it was announced, I was like, how is this going to work? And then my mind was thinking, oh no, it's going to be Pixel 2, isn't it? But then what we got, it was actually kind of like a Argo Courier kind of vibe, which, I mean, yes, please.
It's the only video game I've actually played. So I guess it's good.
It's such a simple game, but it's a fun game too.
Yeah.
You just gotta drag and force it down if you're a master like I am, but you just gotta drag it, match it, drag it, match it. It's so simple, but it's brilliant at the same time.
Yeah. So we do have the chat room open for anybody that's joining us live, and you can make a super chat if you feel so inclined. So welcome to everybody who might have questions for us. Why don't you tell everybody, Ryan, what we're talking about today on Hinge Jobs?
We're talking about Peacock, and this is a service that I've been actually watching a lot lately. I'm rediscovering my love for The King of Queens, which I recommended a very long time ago on the show. It's one of my comfort shows. It's a show that I know is like very sitcom-y. You know the formula, you know where it's going. But I'm a big Kevin James fan. Behind me, I don't know if y'all can see it, but there's a Kevin James poster. I can't point, but it's behind me on my shoulder. He came to Daytona, and he was really funny. And my dad, who works in arranging the events for the building that the show was at, he actually got Kevin James to sign that poster, so I have it in my background there, and it's very cool. And it's a show that I grew up watching with, and it's like I'm kind of biased towards CBS as some of my favorite sitcoms because you got that, Big Bang Theory, Young Sheldon, which is actually pretty good. I'm kind of getting into Night Court, the new Night Court on NBC.
Oh, I heard that was pretty good.
It's actually a lot better than I was expecting. It's got Bernadette from the Big Bang Theory in her normal voice, not the Bernadette
Roach,
voice.
I think is her name.
Hi, I'm Bernadette. Not like the higher voice, but like her normal voice. It's a lot of fun.
Cool, good. Yeah, I'm trying to. My mind has gone blank on CBS shows aside from Survivor's the big one CBS show that I watch, and I did watch Big Bang Theory through the whole run, and I guess I think How I Met Your Mother was CBS.
It was, yeah. But so let's not talk about that.
Triggering. It had many good episodes though that I did love. So, but yeah, you can get some good. I was thinking Paramount Plus was where the CBS shows were.
Yeah, it's strange. I don't understand the working relationship because King of Queens is on the Comcast streaming.
Yeah, because Survivor's on Peacock. I mean on Paramount.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah, but is Big Bang Theory on Peacock or is it on Paramount?
No. It's on HBO Max.
Oh, on HBO Max. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, the rights is like a screaming eye picture. You can't really make it.
They really do make you so you just have to kind of be subscribed to all of them. I feel like some level.
Or get real creative with your Google searches.
Right. So we have a comment from Jeremiah. It says, "Hi friends, good to see you. I know this is late, but congrats about being on TV, Rachel. I think Wednesday is actually quite fun. Have any of you seen it?" I have not seen it, just because I rarely have time to watch a show if I'm not covering it on my podcast for one reason or another. And I'm not the biggest Tim Burton fan, so that didn't kind of draw me in. But I have heard that it's pretty good. So it's certainly got great ratings for Netflix.
Yeah, without a doubt. And like Jeremiah said, congratulations on being on Good Day Utah. I saw the video. I'm so happy for you.
Well, thanks. It's a lot of fun. And it was particularly fun this last time because I got to do this Valentine's special. The only thing that I was annoyed at myself is I forgot to mention Hallmarkies. I did have my Hallmarkies t-shirt on, but I should have mentioned it because it's, Valentine's, but oh well. It was still, I thought that it was a lot of fun to be talking about sort of older movies, and some of my recommendations surprised the hosts, and so that was sort of fun. And just getting better at live television, which I just have not done hardly any of, and so that it's a worthwhile kind of skill to learn. And then
You think it's going to be a bit more steady? Like they're going to hire you?
No, well, even the other woman that does it, my friend Val, it's all an unpaid gig, I guess you'd say, but so it's just for the experience and exposure, I guess. but no, so they want to hire me, but they are going to use me a couple times a month. I think regularly now. I'm going to be, so it'll be I'm going to be on the 3rd. And let's see here. Yeah, next time I'll be on will be the 3rd because I'm going out of town next week. And then I'll be, then I think the 31st would be the next time. So it'll just be every once in a while, but it'll be fun. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that me and Val are a good combo because she's a little bit more like edgy and I'm more like the Hallmark. And so I feel like the two of us balance are a good combo to have. I think you cover almost everything in a month by having both of us on.
Yeah, the whole thing about opposites attract and all that.
Yeah. And it was super nice because my friend Patrick had been doing it, Patrick Beatty, and he's been on my show a couple times, and friend of mine. And so he basically retired from doing that segment, and he recommended me. And then Val also recommended me. And so that's pretty flattering to have, the two current critics recommend me because there's lots of others in Utah. There's plenty of other critics they could have recommended. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, like I said, happy for you. I'm like my friend's famous. Right. I got famous friends.
It was really fun. Last weekend, I went to 2 shows, live theater here, and I was accompanied by a friend Stacy, who I met over Instagram, and that was our first time we had met up with each other, and then we were going to visit and see my friend Caitlin, who I had also only interacted with on Instagram, but we saw her as fairy godmother in Cinderella, and so that was super fun to get to meet her finally because we chatted so much. And there's a lot of out there about the toxicity of the internet, and it's deserved. It can be pretty toxic, but it can help you meet some pretty amazing people too.
I mean, without a doubt. I mean, I met you when I stayed out there with you in Utah, and it was a lot of fun. Thank you again. It really was a lot of fun swimming in the Great Salt Lake. It just really, really fun times all around. So thank you again for that. Got to meet Jacob Martin, my podcast partner, and he's one of my favorite people. Mike Thomas, just too many others to mention, really. I've met some very quality human beings through the internet. So yeah, it can be a wretched hive of scum and villainy. However, through like the mountain of crap, there is sometimes one singular rose, and you got to be on the lookout for it. But if you can find it, then it's all worth it.
Yes. Yes, I agree. Well, let's talk about some movies. And like I said, if you have questions for us, and you can do the super chat if you really want to get your question answered, so put those in the chat room. But let's get started. Let's talk about Peacock. And what's your first hidden gem on Peacock?
So my first choice is a movie from 2008. It's called Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins. This stars Martin Lawrence, James Earl Jones, Cedric the Entertainer, a ton of African American actors and actresses. It tells the story of Martin Lawrence, who plays basically this movie's version of like a Maury Povich or a Steve Wilkos. Basically, like a very trashy, like daytime host of like these couples that get into these really over the top arguments, or like my husband got 7 women pregnant and he's denying it.
Like Jerry Springer or something.
Exactly. Like, you are not the father, that whole gimmick. Well, on that show, his name is R.J. Stevens, but his real name is Roscoe Jenkins. And he is invited back to his family home for his mother and father's 50th wedding anniversary. His father is played by James Earl Jones. And we later learn that he was adopted by the family and just brought into this huge family, because I believe, and it's been a minute since I've seen the movie. I do remember really liking it, but it's been a minute. But if I remember right, they had, I think, like one child and then adopted a bunch of them, and they lived under one roof. And it's very much like wacky antics ensue, and it really all boils down to 2 major plot points. The R.J. Stevens world of his character's wife, who actually made it big on Survivor. You would appreciate that one, Rachel.
Okay.
And she's very diva-ish, very like, if this movie were made today, she'd have like 500,000 Instagram followers, or maybe more. She's like in that kind of stuff. And his son, who craves something more real. And then there's the Roscoe Jenkins world, where he renews an old beef with his adopted brother, played by Cedric the Entertainer, who he thought, Martin Lawrence's character thought that Cedric the Entertainer's character got off easy. And so he felt like, becoming RJ, he had to work harder to get his success. And it's very much a comedy. It's very much these 2 butting heads in hilarious fashion. There's a lot of good actors in here. The late Michael Clark Duncan is in here. May he rest in peace. He's very funny, especially in a certain scene involving catfish. You'll know when you see it. And overall, it's not like highbrow comedy. There's definitely some low-hanging fruit, but I guess I was at the right age for it, where I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. I never heard of it, so yeah, it's fun. That's the whole point of Hidden Gems, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool, good. Well, I'll start with a comedy as well, and I'll start with a movie I'm surprised I haven't done yet, because I do think it's a very underrated hidden gem, rom-com. It's Just Right, and this stars Queen Latifah and Common, and they do a very good job of making Common seem a lot taller than he is, so he can fit in with these basketball players. But he plays this like this point guard basketball player who injures his, I think it's like his Achilles tendon or something like that, and he has to go through physical therapy. And they hire Queen Latifah as his physical therapist. And they, of course, have incredible chemistry, like you would expect. And you also have Paula Patton, who is like one of the most beautiful people on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
She's in this playing her cousin. And there's like a tiny bit of rivalry in there, but mostly it's just that like her cousin is just so like naturally charismatic and beautiful that it's hard for Queen Latifah's character to compete. And so that is actually handled, I think, pretty well. And it's just really charming rom-com that I'm not sure why it didn't get more love than it did, because I think it's a good one.
It wasn't Queen Latifah also in Love and Basketball, or am I thinking of another actress?
Mm, I thought Jada Pinkett Smith was in that.
That
I don't
does
know. I've
sound
never
about
seen
right
it.
now I'm thinking about it, because I was going to say, if that is the case, then Queen Latifah really has a thing for being in these basketball movies. Or
We're both wrong. Sana Latham.
oh wow, okay.
Yeah, she's in that. Which she's in also another really good one called Something Different or Something New. Something New is a hidden gem rom com that I think is very well written and very well done. But I have never seen Love and Basketball, although I'd be curious to see it because it's by Gina Prince Bythewood, and she is a good director. She did Beyond the Lights and also The Woman King, which I like
Mhm.
both of those movies. So I should see Love and Basketball one of these days.
Beyond the Lights, I believe I've recommended here before, because I
Yeah.
thought that movie. I kind of went in not knowing what to expect, and I was surprisingly like, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, it was really good. Great chemistry. Whew. Yeah, on that one. So anyway, but just right. It's a very well done, well done rom com. Great chemistry. It's really they just they hit all the beats just like you want in a story like this. So yeah. But what is your next pick?
So my next choice is a movie from 2015, and it's called Everest. And this was directed by, I'm going to try saying his name right, Baltazar Kormakur. That's about
Yeah,
as
that's a
close as I'm
name for
going to
you.
get. But he actually produced that Beast movie that we got last year with Idris Elba. So he's fairly active still. But it stars
Mm-hmm.
Jason Clarke, and I believe also the dude who is Thanos, Josh Brolin, and also
Okay, yeah.
really, really good
Sam
cast. And
Worthington from Avatar. He's in there.
Sam Worthington's in there too. And it tells a story about a group of people. This is based on a true story, who try and climb Mount Everest. And it's
Mhm.
about as easy as it sounds, in that it is like the hardest thing ever. I remember this is probably just not my favorite teaser trailer, but like one of my favorite teaser trailer moments, because just selling how dangerous this whole thing is. I can't remember if it's Jason Clarke's character or another character, but the trailer starts out with one of the characters saying, a human being was not meant to survive at the cruising altitude of a 747. Everest is another beast altogether. It's a subtle line, but
Mhm.
it really hammers home the task that they have set out to accomplish. And it's very much a disaster movie. These people do get snowed in, and it gets really bad. But I like the chemistry between everyone, and you want them to make it out. And that's really the key to a disaster movie. You want the people to survive, and I wanted them to survive.
Yeah, I haven't seen this one. We did get Jacob says though, Everest is the first movie one of you two have mentioned that I've seen. I thought it was okay. So there we go. Yeah. I I think it depends on like what level of Everest that you're going to. My brother actually climbed Everest, but it was like the first level, not like the top level. There's like different ones that you can do.
They were going to the peak, so
Yeah,
they were
yeah,
going
yeah.
like to the very top floor. And there's actually a moment in the trailer is like they touch, and then it all goes straight southbound.
Let's see. He says, if it's the movie I'm thinking of, it's a little rough. Spoiler warning. It might as well be called People Struggle, Hurt, and Die.
Yeah, Jeremiah hit the nail on the head there. Like I said, it's a rough movie at times, but I recommend it. Like I recommend Only the Brave,
Oh,
starring
that's a good
Josh Brolin.
movie.
It's a very rough movie, especially near the end. But you get
Mhm.
so close to the Grand Mountain hotshots that you want them to make it out, and well, it doesn't go so well for them. That's all I'll say.
If it were up to me, I would have nominated Only the Brave for Best Visual Effects because
Yeah,
that fire was unbelievable. They did an
jaw dropping stuff.
incredible job with that. I thought that was a good movie. I liked it. Okay, so my next pick, we are kind of talking about a group of movies more because they now have Hallmark on Peacock, which is very exciting. So there's a whole section with tons of Hallmark movies. So I will be we talk about them a lot in the future. But they also they have a catalog of movies from Hallmark that will be on there like at least for a longer time. But if you want to watch this weekend's movies, so any weekend, you want to watch the latest releases from Hallmark Channel, Hallmark Movies Mysteries, they'll be on for 72 hours on Peacock.
Ooh.
So if you don't have Hallmark Channel, you want to watch the Hallmark movies, this is a great way now to do it. That you have 3 days basically on Peacock to watch the latest Hallmark movies. So that's fun. And they've had a great month. I'm so excited about tonight's movie that I'll watch when we're finished with this. They call it Loveuary, and so far the first 2 movies have been so good. I'm really looking forward to this third one. It stars Catherine Davis, who I love, and Catherine Davis is going to be our guest for our next patron watch along that we're going to do with Christmas on Fifth Avenue in March 11th. And if you haven't participated in the Patreon, it's so much fun. You get the watch-alongs. You get to hear all about how movies are made and the process and the auditioning and everything. We just had one this week with just last night with Madison and Greta from Meeting Mr. Christmas, and it was so fun. You get to hear all about how they filmed it in his hometown and the extras and what goes into all the different scenes. So if you aren't signed up for the Patreon, I think you get the biggest bang for your buck from my Patreon than any other Patreon I've seen, because you get you basically would be paying $100 for if you were going to do a cameo for the watch alongs, you'd be paying probably $100, and you get more access and longer access, and you get a chance to ask more questions. And we have weekly exclusive reviews and content. So it's my cheap plug for the Patreon. I think it is. I try to make it as worthwhile for the patrons as possible. So you should check it out.
I've been involved in a watch along, and I can confirm that it is a lot of fun.
Yeah, really fun. And it's always an episode of Jeff and Rachel talks about Hallmark, of course. But it's just because I do think a lot of people just dismiss these movies as being trash without ever having watched any of them. I mean, you've seen a couple of them and you enjoyed them, right?
Yeah, I remember, I believe it was a year and a half ago, for one of the We Watch Our 5.
Yeah.
It's like you gave me 5 of your favorite Hallmark movies, and I enjoyed pretty much all of them.
Yeah.
Like I remember, because at the library I work at, we have a copy of Lovelocks starring
I love that movie.
Jack O'Connell, and I remember watching that, and I'm really enjoying that. So, I was in the school of thought initially, like years and years ago, where I was like, come on. I mean, like they is like churn like assembly line movies. Like, come on now. But then I watched a few of them for the episode, and I was like,
yeah,
these are just as viable as the big studio movies we get in Hollywood. I mean, it's clear that these people are putting some effort into these. So I always like, movies are movies. That's my only, that's what I'll say.
Sure, there's some bad ones, maybe even a lot of bad ones, but that's my job then, is to wade through them all, find the good ones, and then promote them to you all. And so I do the dirty work for you.
I'm a fool to do your dirty work. Oh yeah.
So James says, I've started covering Hallmark movies on some past Christmas projects on my channel. So far, I've only liked 2 of them. Fair enough. But I think if you're open to romantic comedies, there are good ones on there that are enjoyable, sweet, fun movies. And the one that I want to talk about tonight is a movie called The Journey Ahead. And this is a good one if you really aren't into the romance as much. This was on Movies and Mysteries. It's not as much a romance. It has like a little tiny bit, but it's really more of a friendship movie. It's about Holly Robinson Peete plays this actress, kind of diva actress, and she has to get from Los Angeles to New York, and she doesn't want to fly. So she basically hires this young woman to drive her across the country. And as they interact, they become friends. And this was, I just thought, really charming and well done. And just got Holly Robinson Pete and Kaylee Bryant. And it's just a cute little road trip movie. So it's on there. Like I said, if you don't want something that has barely any romance, then this is a fun friendship story.
Is Hallmark Movies and Mysteries more of like the non-romance side?
Yeah, like it's the mysteries, the cozy mysteries, and the dramas and things like Signed, Sealed, Delivered and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And Jake says, one of the two I liked was a Hallmark drama, November Christmas, starring Sam Elliott. Yeah, that one has one of the most stacked casts. That one was a Hallmark Hall of Fame, which at the time they aired on CBS. And then for a while it was on CBS and on Hallmark. And then it became just on Hallmark, but they haven't done one since 2019. So I missed that. But November Christmas is really solid. It's a tearjerker, but it's real good. Got Sarah Paulson, Sam Elliott. I can't remember who else, but it's good. It's a good one. So what do you have next?
So my next choice is, here's the hard left for the evening. This is from 2005. It's called, and I'm walking a tightrope on this one, but I've been noted as being not a big fan of Will Ferrell, and I've said that I've liked a few of his movies, and this is one of them I actually do like. It's called Talladega Nights. And like I said, this is definitely walking the razor's edge, but I still think it works for me, and I think it's hidden for me because I'm a big NASCAR fan, and this was poking fun at NASCAR in the middle of like a peak in popularity, or just I can't speak, just kind of tailing off of a massive peak in popularity in the early to mid 2000s. It was still hot, but it was definitely off because of the many factors, including the tragic death of Dale Earnhardt Sr., rest in peace. But Talladega Nights makes fun of a lot of NASCAR conventions. Will Ferrell plays Ricky Bobby. He's the big, like, successful driver, and he's very much like, he's got a big head. But he wins a lot. So a lot of it is just feeding his ego. And then you got his co-driver on the team, played by John C. Reilly, and the two have their little shake
and bake.
Yeah, but he always finishes in second, so it's like Ricky Bobby's here and Cal's down here, so there's a definitive thing there. But then along comes a French driver played by Sacha Baron Cohen from Formula One. And it's funny because that actually does happen in NASCAR quite a bit. You got like guys like Helio Castroneves. You got
from Brazil, isn't he from Brazil?
Yeah, him.
Yeah.
So it happens a lot more than you think. F1 guys go to NASCAR. NASCAR guys go to F1. Jimmy Johnson, before he came back for a brief spell, this Daytona 500 coming up tomorrow, not tomorrow night, but Sunday. He was actually in Formula One himself, or not Formula One, but the Rolex 24 series. So the drivers going from series to series is very common, and it's a lot of fun in this movie, just seeing how over the top French Sacha Baron Cohen plays it. It's so much fun, and it also helps that he's sponsored by Perrier, which just makes me laugh. This very pretentious fizzy drink. It just makes me laugh.
This movie is ridiculous, but I'm telling you right now, I laugh. I mean, in comedies, that's all that really matters in the end. If I'm laughing, then I don't really care. But if I just watched Telly Nights for the first time back in January. It's really stupid on paper, but still hilarious. Shake and bake. And when I went to see it, like, all of my friends were all really offended by it because it is kind of blasphemous at times. And I was just kind of like keeping my mouth shut, just like, I was laughing.
You were the friend who was like, it's really funny. And the dinner table scene where he's like, "Dear Lord, sweet baby Jesus,"
Yeah,
and
me
the father-in-law is like, "Jesus wasn't a baby; he was a man with a beard."
Well, and then when he gets in the car crash and he's running around the track,
Like he's
he's
on
like, "Help me, Oprah!"
fire.
That was really
So,
funny.
like I said, I'm not a big fan of Will Ferrell, but he is hysterical in this. Like this and Elf are the two movies that I'll say I'm definitively a fan of Will Ferrell in that moment.
I mean, I'm a bigger fan of his than you are, but I would say I love Stranger Than Fiction. That's one of my favorites. That's less comedic. It's a little more serious. And then yeah, Elf I love, of course. And then yeah, it's fucking nice. It's so funny. It's so ridiculous. I don't like Sacha Baron Cohen that much, but he's at his funniest in Talladega Nights. He's hilarious. Everybody's funny. It just makes you laugh. And
Yeah. There's this
so
great montage in the movie of Ricky Bobby doing all these advertisements, and he does one for Big Red, and it's so funny. It's like, chew Big Red, and if you don't chew Big Red, go have yourself. It's so simple, but it's just amazing. Just he's so intense about Big Red chewing gum that I don't even see in stores anymore.
like I will totally own when I like something that's puerile and stupid, and if it makes me laugh, that's all I care about, really.
Yeah,
It doesn't
exactly.
have to all be like elevated. But okay, so my next pick is another hard left, as we like to say, and this was from last year, and it kind of got sort of lost in the shuffle. Called Spoiler Alert, and it's a true story. Jim Parsons is there's this he plays this guy Michael Azuelo, and he falls in love with this man named Kit Cohen, and that basically goes over like the I think 14 years of their relationship, and it's kind of Nicholas Sparksian, like that eventually someone's going to get cancer, spoiler alert, and and everything that's going to happen, and you're going to need the tissues, and you're going to. But I thought that they did have nice chemistry, and I thought it was really sweet, and Ben Aldridge. So if you've seen Knock at the Cabin, he's in this, and he's good in this. Sally Field is in it. And it just is a nice, heartwarming, sweet love story if you like things like The Notebook and stuff like that. But it's a true story.
This was directed by Mike Showalter, who also directed The Big Sick, which is a fantastic movie starring Kumail Nanjiani.
Yeah, yeah. And that one does have heavier stuff, but it's, I would say, overall lighter. Like this would be more, if you think about more like The Notebook and stuff like that.
Mm.
It's more like that. But I can enjoy a romantic weepy on occasion when it's done well and there's good chemistry, and I would say there is here. So yeah, I enjoyed it. So what do you have next?
So my next choice, and here's another hard left. We're just taking all of them tonight. But I'm gonna recommend something wrestling related because on Peacock, all of WWE's past, present events, they're on there. And that's why I use it so often, just to see those. But I picked this one because we're getting a movie later on, I want to say this year, from A24, called The Iron Claw, which is about the Von Erich wrestling family and the tragedy surrounding them. Zac Efron is going to be starring as Kevin Von Erich, the last surviving Von Erich brother. And so I'm recommending the triumph and tragedy of world-class championship wrestling as a bit of a primer to understand the Von Erich family and the world-class territory that they owned and operated from the late 70s to the early 90s, and how successful they were. And basically, long story short, the Von Erich family consisted of Fritz, who was the patriarch and the owner of the territory, and he had 5 sons. Kevin, David, Mike, Kerry, and Chris. And there was a 6th one named Jack Jr. because Fritz von Erich's real name was Jack Atkinson, and Jack Atkinson Jr. He passed away sadly at the age of, I believe, 6 or 7 because he suffered an electrical shock and then drowned in a puddle. It was a really unfortunate thing, but side road. So the 5 Von Erich boys, they ended up getting into wrestling in some form or fashion, and by the time of, I want to say, 1993, out of the 6 Von Erich brothers, 5 of them were dead, with Kevin being the lone survivor who is still alive today. And I recommend this one because it's a very sad documentary at times, because it explains just how the Von Erich family were portrayed as very Christian, very wholesome, very straightforward guys, but in reality, they were not that, and it was a bit of a shame. But I recommend watching this because it's a bit of a long documentary, I will not lie. I think it's 2 hours. But I recommend it because it's a good primer before you go and see The Iron Claw, which I think is just going to focus on, I believe, Kevin and maybe Carrie. I know there's going to be Lance Von Erich, but that's a whole nother story. But I think it's just going to be Kevin-based. But I recommend checking Triumph and Tragedy of World Class just to kind of explain the context of just how sad the story really is. Because even though there's a lot of tragedy, there was also a lot of good things that happened to them. It's a sad story with happy moments peppered through.
And do you know when that movie's coming out?
I want to say later this year. I don't have an exact date, but I know A24 is doing it. Zac Efron is going to be Kevin Von Erich, which is a weird choice, but
yeah, he seems kind of small to play a wrestler.
Well, Kevin Von Erich was, I believe, like 6'1" or 2. I'd have to look that up again, but it's not completely out of bounds. I mean, I like Zac Efron. I like him as an actor.
He's 5'8".
Oh, so
yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how they work around it. But considering that it's A24 behind the scenes, it's going to be a tough movie to watch, I can assure you. And even I, who know the story of how it all went down, it's just going to be like head in hands kind of moment. But if you're in any way interested in the Iron Claw and maybe want to know a little more, Triumph and Tragedy of World Class Championship Wrestling is the place you should go.
Let's see this. The Iron Claw and Lily James. It just says 2023. It doesn't say when. I'm just wondering if it'll be like in the Oscar discussion, like if it's that kind of a movie or no.
I mean, there is definitely enough to where
like a wrestler or something like that,
depending on who A24 gets in the director's chair, I definitely think it's in the realm of possibility, because rest assured, it's really sad what happens, because David Von Erich passes away in Japan. It's due to it's billed as enteritis, basically a swelling of the small intestine. However, there's a persistent rumor that drugs had a lot to do with it, but no one has ever conclusively claimed that. Mm-hmm. And then Carrie was on drugs and steroids and stuff, and then he actually committed suicide in 1993. He shot himself through the heart, as that's how he did it. It's a horrible, horrible tragedy. But like I said, I recommend the documentary. It's a bit of a tough sit at times, but it's also a bit fun at times, because it explores like how the World Class Territory did and how they were a bit revolutionary for their time. So it's a balance between the two.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. I'll definitely be checking that out later on this year. So my next choice is an action movie that I did have kind of mixed feelings about, but I think it's worth a watch. It's called Upgrade. This was from 2018, and this is about this. Let's see here. Upgrade. It's by director Lee Wanell, and it's about this guy who gets beat up so he decides to become this kind of RoboCop type guy, and while they're looking for this cure, and it's basically just like a simple action movie about this man that's out for revenge, basically. And it's very well made. The action is great. So if you're an action guy, then you'd really enjoy it.
Yeah, I saw this in theaters. I completely agree. This is a very, very underrated sci-fi action kind of movie. I remember seeing it in theaters, just being blown away. This was my first real exposure to Lee Winnell. I didn't know him for Saw or for Insidious at the time. So this was my first one where I was like, all right, Lee Winnell, let's see what you got. And then he just made this, and I'm like, whoa. It's like a combination of like Blade Runner and RoboCop, like the best elements from both of those.
Yeah, but not as boring. This is more, in my opinion. And so I think that, yeah, definitely just for the filmmaking that's going on, like the script isn't that great, but the filmmaking is really well done. The action is really well done. So if you're interested in those genres, it's only 100 minutes, so it's not that long of a sit, and I think it's worth a watch. So, okay, what do you have next?
So my final pick, and this is a bit of a throwback. This is going to the 60s and the 70s. I am going with the TV show Sanford and Son, and this is a movie, or it's not a movie. It's a TV show that my parents like to watch with me. Is like that and All of the Family. Pretty much shows that would never exist today for a variety of reasons, because the main star, in this case in Sanford and Son, Red Fox, was very kind of not irrelevant, but irreverent. He basically made fun of everyone with equal gusto. There's a lot of episodes where he, as an African American man, calls other African Americans the N-word, and it's not even censored. So be on the lookout for that. But this show is still really funny. This is actually a remake of a British TV show called Steptoe and Son, and it was on the BBC in the early to mid 60s. Same premise, but Norman Lear, who created the show, basically took the concept from like Camden Town, London, England in the early 60s and transplanted it and put it into mid to late 70s Los Angeles, and made both the father and son African American. The father is played by Red Fox, like I mentioned. The son is played by Damon Wilson, who those two just had great chemistry and just many, many gags together, and it was just great. And really, the comedy comes from how the son is very much like into like the mid and late 70s style of dress and attitude, and the father pretty much grew up in the Great Depression, so like they just basically do this in terms of everything. But at the end of the day, they still love each other, and it's very nice. One of my favorite scenes in any of the episodes is when it's near the end of the show's run, but it's when the son is like, "Hey, Pops, do you think it's wrong for a son to say I love you to his father out loud?" And then Fred, who's the father, is like, "No, it's not the best to let your emotions show like that. Spread it around like it's mush or sugar or something like that." And then the son is like, "I love you, Pops." And then he's like, "I love you, son." And then they just continue their conversation. It's a small moment where they show genuine love to each other, but it's done in such a way to where it doesn't break the immersion. You don't be like, really, these two wouldn't say these things together. It would just a quick moment of compassion and then back to the fighting. And it's really, really well done. And it's, like I said, it's a show that would never be made today because of just how crass it can be sometimes. The future, I believe Mr. Miyagi is in here as a bit of a recurring character named Achu, and he's played by Pat Morita. And there are several instances in which Fred calls him egg roll, which is not the best look, but it was of the times. So what can you do?
Yeah.
It's a good show.
I've never seen the show, but I've certainly heard about it and heard that it was a lot of fun, kind of similar to All in the Family, which was also Norman Lear, right?
Yeah, same creator, and actually, All in the Family is actually a remake of a British TV show.
Oh, I
The
didn't know
British
that.
TV show was called Sign of the Times.
I didn't know that. Well, we have from Jeremiah says, no matter how many times you bring it up, I will probably never watch Hallmark and will probably never watch wrestling. I am who I am, and my trust of your taste only goes so far.
We're gonna
Here's
get
the thing.
we're
Well,
gonna
here's
get
the
to
thing.
Jeremiah one day. We're gonna
Well-
get to one day.
Well, first of all, you're not actually suggesting that he watch wrestling. Just to
No.
clarify, like you're suggesting he watches a documentary about people who happen to be wrestlers.
Yes.
Correct. So if you're interested in people, then you probably could be interested in this documentary,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's about the people. It's not actually watching wrestling.
Yeah, exactly.
So clarify there. And I feel like everybody should be at least a little open to almost every genre.
Yeah.
That you have, like, I don't know. I just think you miss out if you're not open to. It's not like you have to become like a huge fan and dedicate your life to it, like say I have with rom-coms and romantic comedies, Christmas movies. But I feel like there should be one that you're like, oh, that was pretty good. I liked that. And so what we try to do on this show and what we do on Hallmark's podcast is we wade through it all and we say, okay, this is the one that you might enjoy. And so when I say I recommend The Journey Ahead, it's one that could be a gateway into Hallmark world because it's not really a romance. So if you're not into romances, this is about two friends that, on a road trip. So that's my only pitch, that I think that everybody should be open to almost every genre. And like even me, like I'm not like super into horror movies, but like I dip my toe in. I try. I find something I really like The Menu last year, for example, like Barbarian. I saw Nightmare on Elm Street last year. So that'd be my only. I think life is more fun if you step out of your comfort zone every now and then.
Yeah, seven words. Don't knock it till you try it.
Very good. Very good. Yes, I agree. And Jacob says, my favorite quote in Sanford and Son is "You big dummy."
You big dummy.
All right. Well, my last one, I guess maybe now that I have it on my list, I'm like, oh, maybe that isn't a Hinge Jump, but whatever. It's from last year. It's Ticket to Paradise. And the reason why I kind of thought of it is like, I bet a lot of people don't know it's on Peacock. Because it was a pretty big hit. It did pretty well in the theaters, which makes me excited because I want rom-coms to be doing well. I want people to be seeing them. I want more in the theaters because I love the genre. And this really, a movie like this hadn't been on in so long in the theaters with two big stars like this. And I'm not saying this is like a great movie, but I think it's serviceable. It has enough escapism, enough chemistry between the two leads. That even though they're kind of terrible and they're kind of terrible to each other and terrible to their daughter, but they have just enough star power and charisma, and it's beautiful enough on this island that I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the banter, and so I would recommend it, and I had fun with it. So it's on Peacock.
Yeah, at my day job, I work at a library, like I've said a couple times now. But every Tuesday we get in like new DVDs that are going out to patrons to be able to rent. We just got The Fabelmans in today, actually, and it went pretty fast.
Sure.
But Ticket to Paradise has been a pretty hot seller, or not seller, but it's been
Renter.
It's been a hot rent. That's what I'll say. When we get something returned and we have to check it back in and it holds for another patron, let's say at another branch or in my branch, it's called trapping. every time I've gotten a ticket to Paradise back and I've returned it, it's always trapped for someone in my branch or another branch. So don't say that these movies aren't popular anymore, because even though it seems like George Clooney is just content on selling his tequila now, I mean, the dude is still George Clooney, and
Yeah, we had a dry period for a long time. There was over a decade where we almost never got a mainstream star-powered romantic comedy like Ticket to Paradise. I mean, last year to get Lost in City and Marry Me and
Ticket to Paradise.
Ticket to Paradise. I feel like there's one other one, but to get these in the theaters was just unheard of. We just didn't get them for a long time, and we'd get like an indie like Sing Street or something like that. But to get a mainstream star-driven vehicle like we would get in the '90s with your like Reese and Sandra and Julia Roberts and things like that, we just didn't get them for a long time. And they were on Netflix or something like that, or on Hallmark. But part of the reason why people like myself turned to Hallmark was because we just weren't getting them in the theater. We just weren't getting those movies. And so I was super excited. I'm super excited that they did well. And so people hopefully will start making more rom-coms.
Yeah.
Yeah. So check it out on Peacock if you didn't get to see it. I enjoyed it. But there we go. We did it. We talked about all of our choices for Peacock. So let us know if you've been watching anything on Peacock or what hidden gems you've been checking out. We'd love to hear. And if you have a streaming service you'd like us to talk about and that maybe we haven't covered in a while, I think we've covered everything almost at least once. But Ryan, where can people find you and what are you doing on your channel?
They can find me Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at RyanCam20. There's, of course, my YouTube channel just called Ryan Cam. Currently doing my Road to Creed 3 series. I've officially reviewed all the Rocky movies on my channel, and this coming Sunday will be my review for the first Creed film directed by Ryan Coogler. And it's my first time revisiting this since the theaters, and I remember really liking it. So I have nothing but positive memories, so here's to hoping it's good on the rewatch, and I'm thinking that it will be. And then once the Road to Creed 3 is over, I will begin my John Wick series, covering every John Wick movie in honor of John Wick Chapter 4. So that'll be somewhere down the road in March. But then I'll, of course, be reviewing Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, seeing that tomorrow night, and I will have a spoiler-free review up for that. And I hope to see Marlowe, because I have a feeling that it's going to be quite good, but it's going to be one of those where nobody sees. So I want to at least give it a shot.
Yeah, cool. That'll be good. Yeah, I've got a busy couple of weeks coming up for me because I'm going to be traveling to Los Angeles for the Hollywood Critics Association Film Awards next week. And I'm really looking forward to that. It should be fun and get to see a bunch of my friends. I'm going to go to a critics screening of Cocaine Bear, so that will be interesting.
I'm so intrigued, but also like whenever I see this, I'm like, they've officially run out of ideas. But then again, I like movies like The Devil's Rejects from Rob Zombie, so I'm not killing the idea of the movie in my head.
I mean, I hope it's not that violent.
No, I don't think so. My point is that I'm not killing the idea of the movie in my head. I'm going to see it. I'm just sitting there being like, man, this was Ray Liotta's last movie. Think about it.
I actually worry that it's not going to be as fun as we hope it will be. I worry that they're going to take itself a little too seriously, and it's going to be, I don't know. That's my worry. That we'll get through it and it'll be like, oh, that wasn't as fun as I was hoping. But we'll be with a fun group, so it'll be.
I mean, hey, anything's possible. I've been seeing defenses of that Winnie the Pooh slasher.
Oh my gosh!
Everywhere
I've seen says it was atrocious. It looks atrocious.
You know, poor Cody Leach, you know, shout out to him. He's been going through it, because I saw his review and I'm like, I'm happy a movie didn't come close to me. But then there are people who are like, you're not a real horror fan. This is what horror people want.
So
no, they don't. Like
The
keep
whole concept just feels lazy and stupid to me. I'm not interested in that. Like just because it's things we love from our childhood, like make it a slasher, that feels very lazy to me.
It's like I haven't even
Yeah,
seen it. I haven't even seen it, and the little Roger Ebert in me is like, I hated this movie. Hated this movie.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
haven't even seen it.
yeah. No, thank you. But I am really excited for a movie called Emily, about Emily Bronte, which is coming out this week. I don't know if I'll get to see it for until the week after I get back, but I'm looking forward to that. And I'm also seeing Creed 3 this week, and so I'm looking forward to that. And we got Lovey coverage this week on Hallmark's podcast. We have our Hallmark's podcast awards on Wednesday, so that's a lot of work for me to put together, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really happy because this year is the first year we opened every category to any network that we enjoyed, any movie that we enjoyed. It didn't have to just be on Hallmark. So we had some Lifetime, some Up TV, things like that. And I feel like almost every single movie that I love got some kind of recognition of some kind.
That's good.
So that made me happy, really happy. And so I think people are. That's always one of the highlights. Got all the celebrities accept their awards, and I've just got to put it all together in the nominations and things like that. So that's coming up on Wednesday for Hallmark's podcast. We have Jane Austen month happening on my channel for Family Movie Night this month, and I've really been enjoying doing that. So it's kind of fun when you get past sort of the big ones, and you're now, whenever you do like a theme, it's fun to do the popular ones, of course, but it's also fun to do sort of the more obscure ones, the ones people may not have seen, and you can kind of introduce them to people. So I enjoy that. And so there we go. That is what's going on with my channel. So check that out. And like I said, if you have any suggestions for hidden gems, just put in the comments, and you can like and subscribe to the channel, and check out the Patreon, which we talked about earlier. I'm really proud of it. I think it's worth your money. And we also have the merch store, which is a lot of fun. And that's about everything. And so, yeah, we'll talk to you all later. Bye.
Bye.